1, 2, 3, let's get it!
If you've watched this channel for a while, then you probably know what a gimbal is, but if you don't, here's a crash course. A gimbal is a 3-axis stabilizer that can balance a camera and get you smooth footage and eliminate any handheld shakiness, leaving you with professional looking videos. And today, we've got probably the most powerful gimbal you can buy. This is the Zhiyun Crane 4, and it's supposed to be able to hold up to a 13-pound setup. But let's put that to the test.
So most of the time, it is a pain in the butt to go from a handheld setup into my gimbal setup. And that's because my handheld setup has, all this on here. We have a camera monitor so I can see what I'm shooting. I also have a matte box on the front with a variable ND filter. That way I can control how and how much light hits the sensor. And when I want to switch over onto a gimbal, I usually have to strip off all of this extra stuff so that it can work out. But not only does it take time to do that, it also means I have to shoot differently when I'm shooting handheld versus when I'm on a gimbal, because on a gimbal, now I don't have a matte box and a variable ND. But I say screw that. If this gimbal is so powerful, can I just throw the whole setup on there? Okay, that looked good, but what if I want to put a 200mm lens on the gimbal? Wait, what? Why? I know normally you would say that you would want wide-angle lenses for gimbals, but I want to get that Michael Bay type orbiting shot, that super compression that looks just really, really cool. So the question is, will a 70-200 balance? Looks like we're in business. All right, I have to admit that looked pretty great, but let's talk about a more practical use case. What if you want to shoot with a zoom lens like a 24-70 and you want to change focal lengths while you're set up on the gimbal? Well, the problem with these zoom lenses is that when you zoom, the barrel extends and retracts, so it changes the balance and weight of the camera. But when you have a powerful gimbal, it doesn't matter.
So this is Zhiyun's flagship gimbal, and as we've come to expect from their gimbals, they have pretty outstanding build quality. Something I find really impressive is that despite the fact that this gimbal can run up to a 13-pound setup, the gimbal itself only weighs about 3.5 pounds. And another thing that stood out to me is their design choices. One important design choice is that the cradle area was designed to accommodate full-size DSLRs and compact cinema cameras. You can see that the back arm is recessed, meaning you can mount a larger setup like I showed earlier without the gimbal arms getting in the way, allowing you full control even with larger setups. The grip of the gimbal is also really well thought out, with all of the controls being easily accessible. Things like the ability to start-stop recording from a tap of a button, control the gimbal pan-tilt from a joystick, a trigger on the opposite side to switch gimbal modes, and a custom function dial that you can set to control things like ISO, shutter speed, or aperture. Which, as a side note, Zhiyun provides camera control cables in the box to enable all of these features. And for more in-depth access to settings, you can access all of those right on the 1.2-inch touchscreen, letting you do everything from change gimbal modes to dialing in balance to changing settings like auto calibration and what you want the control wheel to do. Inside the grip itself, the Zhiyun Crane 4 features 4 lithium-ion batteries that'll give you up to 12 hours of runtime. It also supports power delivery fast charging, meaning you can fully charge it in under 2 hours, which makes it pretty quick to charge and will give you enough juice for even your longest shooting days. Now let's look at some of the unique accessories and features of this gimbal, starting with the sling grip. This is a detachable arm that can be removed when you want to run a smaller, lighter setup, but can be attached to get those low-angled shots that wouldn't be possible otherwise. On top of that, it also has a really well thought out design that lets you transform it from a sling grip to a dual handle in just a few seconds. Now, in the dual handle configuration, you have much more control over panning movements, giving you a better pivot point to track your subject. And in the spirit of intuitive design choices, they've also included a detachable wrist rest. I don't know about you, but after several hours of shooting on a gimbal, my wrists really start to feel the burn. But with this wrist rest, you get to distribute all of that weight and strain into your forearms instead of your wrist, which is a lot easier for all-day operation. On top of that, I don't know if you've noticed, but all of these gimbal companies are starting to finally innovate and bring new features to these gimbals. DJI added the auto fold feature where the gimbal auto locks itself when you turn it off, making it easier to transport around on a shooting day. Well, Zhiyun realized that a lot of times when customers were having issues with their gimbals, thinking like, hey, this gimbal doesn't work right, it doesn't balance correctly, that oftentimes it was because of user error. And because of that, they decided to add LED indicator lights to let you know if you've balanced each axis correctly. So as you go through the process of balancing your tilt axis, your pan axis, and your roll axis, when you turn on the gimbal, it'll show a white light if you balance them correctly. Or it'll show a red light letting you know that, hey, heads up, your tilt axis isn't balanced correctly, making it a lot easier for beginners to set up their gimbals correctly the first time, and for experienced gimbal operators to very quickly, at a glance, get visual confirmation that everything's good to go. Zhiyun even added this built-in 10-watt bi-color fill light on the front of the gimbal that can be super useful in a pinch to add some light to your scene. This is something that's super clutch for those of us that shoot in live environments like at weddings or at events, because sometimes you just need a little bit of added light, like on the dance floor of a wedding reception. Alright, so let's talk about pricing. The Zhiyun Crane 4 comes in at $669, and if you want that additional sling arm and wrist rest, you'll need to get the combo kit at $749. When you compare it to its only main competitor, the DJI RS3 Pro, you're looking at a pretty solid deal when it comes to price. On top of that, the Zhiyun Crane 4 has a higher payload capacity than the RS3 Pro, which means that if you want the versatility of potentially using heavier rigs in the future, the Crane 4 is the way to go. If you're interested in checking out the Crane 4, links will be in the description down below. Oh, and if you haven't heard yet, you should join my Discord server. I just started a Discord server for photographers, filmmakers, and content creators of all levels to meet other creatives, share your work, and talk about new camera gear. So if you want to join the club, click on the link in the description. Alright, that's it for this one. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and if you want to watch more videos, here's a video that YouTube thought you would really enjoy. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.